What if I told you that some of Hollywood's biggest stars weren't just acting on screen? They were acting in real life too. They built their careers on charm and charisma, but behind closed doors, they lived secret lives that no one was supposed to know about. From hidden relationships to shocking double identities, these stars had secrets that could have ruined them. But how did they manage to keep it all a secret? And what happens when the truth finally comes out? Let's uncover the dark double lives of 20 Hollywood stars who weren't who they seemed. Rock Hudson. Women across America fantasized about Rock Hudson, tall, handsome, the perfect leading man who made hearts flutter opposite Doris Day. But behind closed doors, Hudson was living an elaborate charade that would have instantly destroyed his career. The studio system forced this gay icon to participate in sham marriages, while studio fixers worked overtime to bury any hint of his true sexuality. Studio executives went as far as arranging dates with women for photo opportunities, while threatening to destroy anyone who dared speak the truth. When Hudson became one of the first major celebrities to die from AIDS in 1985, the revelation didn't just shock fans. It exposed the cruel machine that had forced him to deny his authentic self for decades. His entire career was built on a studio-manufactured lie that ultimately cost him everything. 19. Marlon Brando. On screen, Marlon Brando revolutionized acting with raw vulnerability. Off-screen, he was living so many separate lives simultaneously that even his closest friends couldn't keep track of his shocking reality. What Hollywood concealed, Brando maintained multiple hidden families across different continents, fathered at least 11 children with various women, and engaged in countless secret affairs with both men and women. His Tahitian island retreat wasn't just a vacation home. It was a private kingdom where he could escape the fabricated identity Hollywood had trapped him in. Marlon lived so many lives within his life that sometimes I think even he couldn't tell where his characters ended and he began. Revealed director Francis Ford Coppola, one of the few who glimpsed behind the curtain of Brando's labyrinthine private world. 18. Cary Grant. The sophisticated, debonair Cary Grant, with his refined accent and aristocratic manner, he never actually existed. The truth: Grant was born Archibald Leach to a poverty-stricken family in Bristol, England, and his entire persona was an elaborate fiction he created to bury his traumatic past, the devastating secret Hollywood buried. At age 9, Grant was told his mother had died, only to discover 20 years later she had been alive in a mental institution the entire time, hidden away by his alcoholic father. This psychological trauma haunted him throughout his life. Everyone wants to be Cary Grant. Even I want to be Cary Grant, he once confessed, revealing the profound identity crisis that led him to experiment with LSD therapy in the 1950s, a fact studio publicists worked desperately to suppress. 17. Greta Garbo. Greta Garbo didn't just retire, she vanished completely, orchestrating one of Hollywood's most mysterious disappearing acts at the height of her fame and beauty. At just 35, the luminous star walked away from Hollywood entirely, retreating into 5 decades of strict seclusion that bewildered fans. What few realized, Garbo's famous line, "I want to be alone," wasn't just a movie quote. It was a desperate plea from a woman who suffered from crippling social anxiety and psychological torment caused by the studio system's dehumanizing star-making machine. Her Manhattan apartment became a fortress, and she would often walk the streets in elaborate disguises to avoid being recognized. The studio system had created a goddess, but destroyed the woman inside, and her complete disappearance was the only way she could reclaim her shattered identity from an industry that had stolen her authentic self. 16. Charlie Chaplin. Charlie Chaplin's little tramp character brought joy to millions during the Great Depression, but behind his iconic mustache and bowler hat lurked scandals so explosive they led to his banishment from America. The shocking truth Hollywood tried to bury: Chaplin's predatory pattern of pursuing disturbingly young girls, including his marriages to 16-year-old Mildred Harris and 16-year-old Lita Gray. Even more damaging were his radical political views during the Red Scare era and his refusal to become an American citizen, despite decades of living in the country. The beloved icon who made the world laugh was ultimately exiled from the United States in 1952. unable to return to the country where he had built his legendary career. A dramatic fall from grace that the studio system fought desperately to hide from the public who adored his on-screen persona. 15. Elizabeth Scott. With her sultry looks and husky voice, Elizabeth Scott became synonymous with film noir in the 1940s and 50s. Paramount Pictures manufactured her image as the ultimate femme fatale, dangerous, alluring, and irresistible to men. The career-ending secret she was hiding. Scott was a lesbian at a time when such a revelation would have instantly destroyed her. Born Emma Matzo in Scranton, Pennsylvania, Scott maintained public relationships with men as cover, while living her authentic life in carefully guarded privacy. She frequently escaped to Paris, where away from Hollywood's watchful eyes, she could finally be herself. Her entire career existed on the knife's edge of exposure. One wrong move, one indiscreet moment would have ended everything in an instant. 14. John Garfield. John Garfield pioneered the rebel archetype with his gritty performances. But his authentic connection to the criminal underworld was a secret the studios fought to conceal at all costs. What audiences never knew, Garfield's hardscrabble upbringing included juvenile delinquency and alleged ties to organized crime figures from New York's Lower East Side. These weren't just method-acting inspirations. They were real connections that later made him a prime target during the Hollywood blacklist era. Despite never being a Communist Party member, Garfield refused to name names to the House Un-American Activities Committee and was blacklisted. The stress of fighting these accusations contributed to his fatal heart attack at just 39, a dramatic end that revealed how quickly Hollywood would sacrifice even its biggest stars to protect the industry's carefully polished image. 13. Barbara Stanwyck. Barbara Stanwyck projected tough independence on screen, but even this strong image masked her true power behind the scenes. The explosive truth: Stanwyck maintained a complex network of relationships with underworld figures, while simultaneously working as an alleged FBI informant during the McCarthy era. This dangerous double game gave her unprecedented behind-the-scenes influence. "My life is nobody's business," she maintained until death, refusing lucrative autobiography offers. The reason? The full truth about her covert activities would have shattered her carefully constructed image. 12. Judy Garland. As Dorothy in The Wizard of Oz, Judy Garland represented wholesome American girlhood, the heartbreaking reality. Behind the scenes, she was being systematically destroyed by the very studio that pretended to cherish her. The horrific truth MGM concealed. Studio executives controlled virtually every aspect of Garland's existence, forcing her onto starvation diets, giving her amphetamines to suppress appetite, then barbiturates to sleep, beginning a lifelong cycle of addiction before she was even 16. Her mother, one of Hollywood's most notorious stage parents, actively facilitated this abuse. By her teens, Garland was trapped in a nightmare of addiction, exhaustion, and deteriorating mental health, all while studio publicity departments portrayed her as carefree and joyful. Her tragic death at 47 exposed the dark machinery that had been grinding her down since childhood. 11. Marilyn Monroe. No star embodied the disconnect between image and reality more than Marilyn Monroe. To the world, she was the ultimate sex symbol, bubbly, carefree, and sensual. The devastating truth: she was essentially a prisoner of her manufactured image. Behind the platinum blonde fantasy, Norma Jean was an intelligent, deeply troubled woman who had endured childhood sexual abuse and abandonment. Her iconic status became her prison, trapping her in a persona she increasingly despised. Her mysterious death at 36 only deepened the tragic gulf between the public Marilyn and the private Norma Jean. 10. Clark Gable. Known as the King of Hollywood, Clark Gable projected unshakable confidence and masculinity. Behind this commanding facade, a web of deception that included a secret child he refused to acknowledge. The scandal Hollywood covered up: Gable fathered a daughter with actress Loretta Young during an affair, concealed through an elaborate scheme where Young adopted her biological child to avoid a career-ending scandal. Even more shocking were rumors of Gable's hidden bisexuality, allegations that would have destroyed his carefully crafted image as the ultimate man's man. 9. Jean Harlow. Jean Harlow exploded onto screens as cinema's first blonde bombshell. But her brief, tragic life ended under circumstances so suspicious that questions persist nearly a century later. The disturbing mystery Hollywood buried is that Harlow's second husband, producer Paul Byrne, died mysteriously just 2 months after their wedding in what was officially ruled a suicide. Rumors of mob connections and foul play have persisted for decades, with some evidence suggesting Byrne was murdered and the scene staged to protect the studio's valuable star. By age 26, Harlow was dead from kidney failure, possibly exacerbated by the toxic chemicals used to maintain her signature platinum blonde hair, which some believe slowly poisoned her. Her brief, tragic life revealed the potentially lethal price of Hollywood stardom behind the glittering facade. 8. Errol Flynn. On-screen, Errol Flynn was the quintessential action hero. Off-screen, evidence suggests he was leading a double life as a covert operative that remained classified for decades. The explosive secret is that during World War II, Flynn was suspected of having Nazi sympathies, but declassified intelligence files suggest he may have been a double agent working for Allied intelligence. His playboy reputation provided the perfect cover for international espionage. Flynn's autobiography barely scratched the surface of his clandestine activities. His premature death at 50 occurred before he could reveal the full truth. 7. Humphrey Bogart. Humphrey Bogart defined the film noir anti-hero, cynical, world-weary, and tough as nails. His rough-edged persona in classics like Casablanca seemed so authentic that audiences never questioned it. The fabricated identity, Bogart actually came from wealth and privilege, the son of a prominent New York surgeon. Educated at prestigious prep schools, speaking with refined diction, he deliberately roughened for film roles. Warner Brothers worked overtime to conceal his aristocratic background, creating instead a hardened, working-class image that was entirely fictional. 6. Lana Turner. Discovered at a soda fountain, Lana Turner rose to fame as the Sweater Girl, a wholesome nickname that concealed a private life so volatile it culminated in homicide, the shocking crime Hollywood nearly managed to bury. Turner's 14-year-old daughter, Cheryl Crane, stabbed and killed Turner's abusive gangster lover, Johnny Stompanato, in what was ruled a justifiable homicide. The case threatened to destroy Turner's career and exposed her dangerous entanglements with organized crime figures. What few realize is how close powerful studio executives came to completely covering up the murder. Initially planning to claim Turner herself had killed Stompanato in self-defense until the teenage daughter insisted on telling the truth. This shocking incident briefly pulled back the curtain on the violent, chaotic reality behind Turner's carefully manufactured glamorous facade. 5. Rita Hayworth. Rita Hayworth's famous line, "They go to bed with Gilda, they wake up with me," perfectly captured the cruel disconnect between her smoldering screen presence and her private reality. Her performance in Gilda established her as the ultimate object of desire. Born Margarita Cancino to a Spanish father, Hayworth was completely physically altered by Columbia Pictures. She underwent painful electrolysis to raise her hairline and dyed her naturally dark hair red to appear more conventionally American, physical transformations that erased her ethnic identity. Despite 5 marriages, including to Orson Welles and Prince Ali Khan, Hayworth never found happiness. Her later life was marked by alcoholism and early-onset Alzheimer's disease, a tragic end for a woman the studio system had literally remade from head to toe to serve its commercial interests. 4. Frank Sinatra. Frank Sinatra's smooth voice and cool persona made him an enduring icon, but behind his sophisticated image lay connections so dangerous they nearly ended his career multiple times. The criminal ties the FBI documented extensively. Sinatra's relationships with notorious organized crime figures like Sam Giancana and Lucky Luciano weren't just casual associations. They were deep connections that influenced his career trajectory and business dealings for decades. These mob relationships helped advance Sinatra's career, while simultaneously threatening to destroy it. His notorious temper and feuds with journalists revealed glimpses of the real man behind the carefully managed public image, someone far more dangerous and compromised than the smooth crooner portrayed in publicity materials. 3. James Dean. In just 3 major films before his death at 24, James Dean captured the essence of teenage alienation, but the studio system worked overtime to protect the carefully crafted image of the motorcycle-riding rebel from revelations that would have destroyed his appeal to American teenagers. What Warner Brothers fought to keep hidden. Dean's complex sexuality and relationships with both men and women would have immediately ended his career had they become public knowledge. Studio publicists created elaborate stories about his romantic interests in women, while working to suppress any rumors about his same-sex relationships. His fatal car crash in 1955 transformed him into cinema's most iconic martyr, forever frozen in youth, and conveniently eliminated any risk of the truth emerging as he aged. His premature death allowed the mythology around Dean to grow unchecked by reality, preserving the marketable image the studio had created. 2. Audrey Hepburn. Audrey Hepburn embodied elegance and sophistication in films like Roman Holiday and Breakfast at Tiffany's. Her delicate beauty and refined manner suggested an aristocratic upbringing and charmed life. During World War II, teenage Hepburn nearly starved to death under Nazi occupation in the Netherlands, where she worked with the Dutch resistance carrying secret messages. These traumatic experiences left her with lifelong health issues and malnutrition that contributed to her famously thin frame, which ironically became a beauty standard. Studio publicists reframed her war-damaged health as natural elegant slenderness, concealing the suffering behind her physique. Later in life, Hepburn devoted herself to humanitarian work with UNICEF, using her celebrity to help children suffering from the same war-induced hunger she had experienced, a mission directly connected to her hidden childhood trauma. 1. Montgomery Clift. Montgomery Clift's sensitive performances brought new psychological depth to American cinema. While his haunting good looks made him one of Hollywood's most desired leading men, Clift's homosexuality in an era when exposure meant instant career death led to increasing substance abuse as he struggled to maintain his public image. A horrific 1956 car accident left him physically and psychologically scarred, accelerating his self-destruction. Even as his appearance changed dramatically, studios continued to market him as a romantic lead, creating an impossible psychological burden that literally tore him apart. These are just 5 of the stars who lived secret double lives. But what about the others? Some secrets were carefully hidden, while others exploded into public scandals. But here's the real question. How many more Hollywood stars had secrets that we still don't know about? If you found these stories shocking, just wait until you hear what's coming next. Hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss a story Hollywood tried to bury. The truth about old Hollywood is far darker than you've ever imagined, and we're just getting started.